everyone. Welcome again. We are going to continue our study of the book Alert by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis and Psychography of Divaldo Franco. Today we are going to be studying chapter 5. I'm going to share with you now. Okay. Just 1 second. So it's concept of brethren. Can you all see well, or is it too small? It's good? I can try to put it a bit bigger. Okay. So concept of, sorry? Concept
the left
of,
screen.
Sorry, I couldn't hear it, Philip.
The left is off the screen a little.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
That's good.
Okay, thank you. Concept of brethren. Jesus enunciated that an in-depth survey regarding the concept of brethren is necessary to be made. If we shed our eccentricities, as with the mechanisms of evasion with which not rarely a word is placed, there might be a better identification, more valid in respect to the profound sentiment in which it is enveloped. Starting from the principle that God is the Father of all, the brethren are inevitably someone linked to all of us. Okay, so let's stop here. First, Joanna de Angelis is asking us here to understand this concept of, we are all brothers and sisters. What does this mean? When we say, when you use the word, oh, you're my brother, oh, you're my sister, loosely, are we really understanding that in reality, if we are talking about having a creator and all of us coming from this creator that so far we have called father, mother, something that is the one that has created all of us, it means that we are all in spirit actually connected. It doesn't mean necessarily, and we know that this is the case, that we are connected by physical ties, which is something different, something more related to the physicality, but it's spiritually speaking, we are all connected. So here, she's inviting us to identify better the meaning, to bring about this sentiment, that the emotion that this word should mean to ourselves, and understanding the relationship we have with one another that goes beyond what we imagine, because we are much more bound to think only about the material ties than the spiritual ties. So any comments, any questions? I'm waiting for you to participate.
It's interesting that they use the word brethren, which usually means family. So that means that the whole of humanity is family.
Yes, that's interesting. Yeah. Anything else?
For me, brotherhood, or it comes like, when all the people from one profession, the brotherhood of the lawyers, the brotherhood of whatever. So it it gives me the impression that it's one group instead of, you know, the whole humanity, but also family, like Philip said. So it's interesting, the choice of words. And I think we do use it quite lightly. And sometimes we say brothers and sisters, but we don't really mean it. I wonder if that has any impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what, again, always Joanna de Angelis is bringing us something for us to think about, to try to, you know, to steer in us. And I always like to repeat, remember the name of the book, Alert, is not by chance. She's actually trying to call our attention to subjects that either we are not understanding, or if we are understanding, we are still not capable of, you know, absorbing, of experiencing them in our lives. And this, I think, is a concept, like Philip said, in terms of family, in terms of understanding that all this connection. And but from the physical perspective, it's only natural that we think about, you know, starting from the small to, you know, to broaden the horizons. So far it's very interesting that you said that, Andrea, that because we have been, you know, joining each other, joining groups or brotherhoods, like you said, or even a fraternity, according to our inclinations. And which is good. This is already in a small scale the exercise of you know, understanding that are people that think alike, that feel alike, and that they join each other regardless of, you know, any blood ties, which is good. And sometimes, you know, we feel that on our day-to-day life. Sometimes we may have more affinity with people that are not from our family or a physical family, but are from our spiritual family or spiritual inclinations. And in the book Family Constellations, Joanna de Angelis actually shows this, that, you know, from the small circles that we have here on earth, we start learning to each time more go bigger and bigger and bigger, until we are going to be learning to you know, to respect and ultimately to love all humanity, because we will understand that we all come from the same source. We all are going to return to the same source, and there should be nothing that should be separating us. Any other comment before we read the next one? Okay, so let's read a bit more. Those that make themselves into our adversary, regardless of the position they temporarily take, are our brethren. Whoever adorns them with the hapless attitude of a pursuer, despite the position they have espoused, even if they forget, they are still our brethren. So here Joanna de Angelis is bringing this idea that it doesn't matter if we are talking about someone that is our adversary, that is someone that has been persecuting us, that have been causing any kind of harm to us. They are still our brothers and sisters. And yeah, and if we think about it, it's only natural that we will understand the hurt, because, you know, the hurt that hurts more are the hurts that are connected to some emotional content, to previous emotional content. And in this case, sometimes, you know, when people are hurting us, or, you know, becoming our adversary, or persecuting us for whatever reason, That's perhaps what explains why it is so difficult for us to say, I don't even know this person that much, or this person is not going to be missing in my life anyway, because we are part of a whole. And if there is a part of this whole that is ill somehow, or that is in need of attention, or that is causing all this trouble, and it can be ourselves, of course, we are talking about ourselves as well, we are going to feel it. It's going to be difficult for us. And here, Joanna de Angelis saying, because, it's like she's listening to our little whims and say, oh, you are all brothers and sisters. And then like little children will say, oh, but even that person that does that much to me, do I really have to consider them my brother or my sister? So this is her responding to our questions, trying to somehow justify us pushing away people or not forgiving them. Remember that we started with the lesson of forgiveness, okay? Because everything here is connected. All these alerts are connected with one another. So here is she saying, yes, they are still your brother and sister. Yes, you still have to forgive them. This is just a temporary position. Things are going to change. I mean, and this, if we wanted to say there is fate in something, this is fate. This is fate. One day, our enemies are going to be our best friends. There is no way we will escape that. Because the law is that of progress. Yes, Adilson.
I'm in another place. I hope the connection is going to be okay. If it's not, let me know. I'll stop, okay? But thinking about Joanna invite us in this passage, I think is for us to reflect as well, if everyone is our brothers and sisters, even the ones we consider like the highest enemies or someone who really did something that apparently is terrible, isn't worth reading this passage to work in a relationship as much as difficult they seem to be today. Because we are trying to build this kingdom of heaven in our hearts, and it's like a constant process of evolution, yeah? And when you think about the first commandment, love God above everything else and love your brother as yourself, and I like the third one that Jesus left, love as your brother as I have loved you. So think about these three aspects, and that we still have relationship that still seems to be so difficult, so far apart. When I read something like that, it invites me to go to this marathon relationships, like really, like do my effort as much as tomorrow. It's like what you said, it's a fatality. If I don't do tomorrow, it's gonna be in the next life. If I have the time today, doesn't matter what the other person is doing, it's not worth to try a little bit to diminish this kind of feeling. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, remembering last week, for those who were here, we were talking exactly about that, about, let me show you here. The last week, we talked about obsession and talking about, all the connections that we had with spirits and the difficulties that we created. So in here today, it's kind of a continuation of what we were talking, because obsessor is not necessarily just the person, one disincarnated and the other one incarnate. It can be the relationships that we are having here. And here, when we are talking about being brothers and sisters, it doesn't matter whether we are in the physical life or in the spirit life. We are talking generally. I mean, I'm not going to be anyone's less sister because I'm alive or because I'm dead or because I'm in the spirit world. So that's I think the point here. And if our destiny is actually to become friends with everyone, because even thinking about this concept of brotherhood, where of fraternal relationship. It's to become friends with everyone. We have to make an effort, even when there is no reciprocity. Again, for us to eliminate any ill feeling from us is always going to be very important, because then we are not going to be fueling even more something that is happening on the other. And then we understand that our energy travels distance. So every time someone thinks ill about me, somehow I'm going to receive this impact. Every time someone feels good, something good about me, or say a prayer on my behalf, I'm going to feel that on the distance. So that's what we have to think about as well. Anyone else would like to say something? Or let's read another one. The human landscape can be renewed by always confronting your brethren through the adoption of fraternal support. So, it depends on us. It depends on how we are going to be positioning ourselves before those kind of situations. If we keep on a confrontational relationship, of course, we are going to delay that. But when we use fraternal support, even when there is confrontation, we can change it. Because like Jesus once said, love covers a multitude of sins, of errors, of ill feelings. So if we can substitute that in ourselves in relation to people, and here I understand that it's hard for us to think about the whole humanity as brothers and sisters, people we do not know, people we do not have the relationship, but at least with those that we know, our universe, we should already consider to have this kind of understanding, not necessarily at this stage accompanied by this kind of fraternal emotion, because it takes time for us to grow. But if we, it is possible to change this landscape, this everything that is around us. Comments, questions? Okay, let's read another one.
There is
Okay.
something in this chat. Orlando shared something. With so much hate in our society with nationality or skin color, what has happened? There is always the opposite that is always present.
Yeah, Orlando, you're right. In the moment, we are still filled with negative emotions towards our brothers and sisters. Not necessarily because of the color of the skin. It can be because of nationalities, ethnicities. It can be because someone is more successful than you are. It can be because someone has more money than you have. It can be because someone is younger than you are. So we all have these negative emotions. And the idea here, that's why this chapter is actually so important, is for us, I mean, if we want to exercise, like Adilson said, love one another like I loved yourselves, when Jesus said that, there is no other way for us to do that than to start seeing everyone as being a creature of God, as being a child of God like we are. And if they are child of God like we are, well, they are children of God like we are. So there is only one way. I mean, we have to learn to accept, to respect, to have compassion, until we will develop love. We will develop this brotherhood that should prevail. For the moment, we are still not capable of doing that. But the only road that can lead us to this is the road of enlightenment, in the sense of understanding this. If at this point in life we already accept that there is a creator, we already accept that we are all brothers and sisters, then the next steps, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of, us even paying attention to ourselves. Because someone may say, I have no problem with any kind of prejudice. Really? Think about it. You may not have prejudice because of the color of the skin. You may not have prejudice because, for nationalities, ethnicities. But then, if you are an immigrant, please stay in your country. What is that? So we have to pay attention to how we think and how we react to things. Or if we are talking about gender, or if we are talking, about so many different things. And sometimes, how we laugh or we find someone ridicule because, they don't speak English that well. And so all of this is prejudice. All of this is us not being nice, not being good, not trying to understand our brothers and sisters. Someone that has a problem in, with speaking a different language, it means this person already speaks one language. This is the second language that the person is speaking. And why are we going to make fun of them because they have an accent or something? If we ourselves perhaps only speak one language. They are making an effort even to communicate with us. So there are so many things that we have to pay attention in ourselves when looking at others, when judging others. Like, if I'm walking down the street and someone bumped into me, is like, it's the end of the world. We don't know what this person is going through. We don't know the trouble, the situation, even if they are looking at their phones and we say, oh my God, of course they had to be looking at their phone and not knowing where they are walking. And now he's bumping into me. But we don't know if there is something very hard happening that requires the person to be walking and looking at the phone at the same time. And here we are already judging, already saying, oh, this person is not worthy, or so we still have that, and it's the bad side of ourselves. But instead of focusing on the so much negativity that is still happening in the world, we should focus on the positive aspects, even ourselves. Like if you think about yourselves 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you want to see a major difference, you may look at yourself 10 years ago and realize how much you have grown, and how much still there is to do, of course, but how much you have changed, how much you have learned with life, how much you have improved, how situations have changed, you see. So we have all of that. And things are happening, and we comment on another of the studies, even today, how much we have seen examples of solidarity, of really people going forward to help each other. How even the world is somehow joining hands to find solutions. So we are seeing changes. Sometimes it's like when you say you have a blackboard. I mean, there is a white, a board that is completely white. There is just one black dot. And when we ask people, what are you seeing here? There, you say, I see the black dot. So we have 99.9% of white and one black dot, and we see the black dot. So the thing that shouldn't be there. So I think it's also time for us to start shifting direction in terms of looking at others, looking at the world. We have in the codification some examples that say even criminals love someone, even if it is a plant or an animal. You know, there is the seed of love, of tenderness in their care, in their hearts. So I think we should be working on having a more optimistic way of looking things, which doesn't mean deceiving ourselves, which doesn't mean make believe that nothing bad exists. Yes, it still exists. It's still going to be existing for quite some time. But it's up to us to change this landscape, like Joanna de Angelis is inviting us to do here. Okay?
Just thinking about this sentence, then I was reading and then pay attention to what you're saying. It seems to be so simple, this sentence, but it's so profound because, especially when you use the word landscape, because when you think about landscape, you think about gardening as well, yeah? And each one of us have a garden, an inner garden. And sometimes you're looking to clean the big garden. I want to change my president, I want to change the center, I want to change this and that. But then how is my emotions? How are my sentiments? How is my behavior? How is my relationship with my family right now? How I'm managing my time? How I'm taking care of this inner garden? Because it's so easier to see the big garden, but then I'm supposed to be a rose and I have only thorns. Where is my flower? Yeah, where is the fruits that I'm producing right now? And I'm worrying about all the big landscape. But God is not asking that. He's just asking me to produce orange. If I can make one orange, I did well in this life. So I think it's to invite us. Yes, of course, we are co-responsible for the big landscape of life. But if you're not doing the small duty that requires to us to build in this planet, how can you want to change the whole renewal of the entire planet? We have a spirit already responsible for that, and it's Jesus. And his mindset cannot change the whole mindset of the planet just because he wants. Even Jesus knows that there's a time for this renewal to happen in billions and billions of years. I think it's an invitation to us to look to our inner garden. Because if you do pay attention, there's so much you can do. And it can be literal as well. I go back home sometimes and I see my plants, they're dying. And then I ask myself, so maybe I didn't give the amount of fertilizer that requires, I didn't change the soil, maybe I didn't water properly. The same way with us, yeah?
Absolutely, Adilson, and I think it's what we have been trying to say here. We have to take care of our own backyard. We are looking at the garden of the world and criticizing that, look what a mess, no one is taking care of themselves, and we are not looking at our own backyard. And there perhaps is all invaded by, the flowers are not growing. It's all invaded by how do I say erva daninha? I forgot. I always yes, Barbara. Wheat. All this wheat are, yeah, all and we're not taking care of it, and then we use as excuse not to do anything in our own backyard, saying no one is doing anything. Look around. Why do I have to do? Because you want to live in a nice environment. in a nice atmosphere. And so perhaps if your neighbors, so to say, you start seeing how much, meaning the people that live around you, start seeing how nice your garden, inner garden is becoming, they will feel motivated to change theirs as well. So this is always the problem. We are always trying to find excuses. It's God, it's the spirits, it's the world, what is the point? And we are not doing what we have to do. So there's a question from Orlando now. Can the spirit world do a better job educating the reincarnating spirit for the life on earth? They are more than PhD spirits trying to educate us. It's very much like when we go to school and we have an excellent teacher, but the student doesn't want to learn. And it will take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, drop out of the school, stay a while without perspective, perhaps later on coming back to school. The problem is not the teacher. The problem is not the spirits. The problem is us. The spirits cannot go and, violently saying, you have to do this, because we will not do it. We don't do that with the teachers on earth. We don't do that with our parents. We don't do that with our friends. We don't do that. If we set our minds in something, and that something is not what we want to do, there is not even Jesus could change the opinion of those that live it around him. I mean, and Jesus, come on. Let's read a little more. A betrothed, before seeing their partner in conjugal affection, will have them as brethren, maintaining the unbreakable link. If the link of matrimony is broken, the first should be maintained. A boss will find the assistants, their brethren, situated in the position of attendant in which they also find themselves before they see a subordinate. The assistant will receive in the person of their boss a sibling, both struggling so that the fraternal sentiment can prevail. Although the relationship between employer and employee can deteriorate, one will not harm the other due to the irreversible fraternity. A brother should love one another in all circumstances, in every moment or at any time. So what is Joanna de Angelis trying to tell us here is that regardless of the relationship that we have, like for instance, they are talking about the conjugal affection, about, spouses, that even if for some reason their marriage is broken, it doesn't mean that they cannot look at each other as being brothers and sisters, which means they will continue to respect each other. They will continue to understand that each one of us have, perhaps different aims. So if I'm a boss or if I'm a subordinate, we may have our disagreements, but it doesn't justify any kind of negative relationship, something that could not make a fraternal or fraternity prevail in our relationship. So if now we are in the position of a boss, or if now we are in the position of a subordinate, we all have responsibilities towards one another, and we all have to respect one another as being brothers and sisters. So there should be no excuses for us not to look at other with the respect that someone's deserve. We may have someone in a very huge and prominent position that we do not like, that we do not respect, but it's making a mess, but it still is our brother. We may have look at someone that is very humble, that is is living on the streets, a homeless person, it doesn't matter because they don't have a place to rest their body that they are any less than we are. So we may not agree with what they're doing, we may not agree with their ways, but it's still, we will always remember that they are our brothers and sisters. And if there is anything that we can do to help them to change their ways, to better their ways, we should do it. And remember, prayers always are going to be a very precious tool when we cannot have any direct action in changing things. Comments, questions?
I think,
I have.
no, go ahead, son, please.
Okay, then for me, it's always easier to, as Joanna de Angelis says about landscape, to pray and understand people are far from me. And this paragraph, she calls us, alert us about people are close to us. Because it's, for me, it's our challenge to understand, to give some excuses or forgiving people close to me. This, many times we don't know which way we are taking to forgive someone who hurt us, or someone to squeeze us as a position and something like this. This is a challenge, personal challenge for me. And I don't know about the others, but this paragraph is really alert for me, personal.
No, just the last sentence, because again, Joanna de Angelis looks like a manual now. A brother should love one another in all circumstance, in every moment, or at any time. Does she give any space for any gap? No, she's saying in every circumstance. Doesn't matter what we think, how aggravated is the relationship, we should try as much as we can to become truly a brother. Because we are not brothers, we become brothers. I remember what Haroldo Dutra just said, that you're not a son of God, you become a son of God when you honor your father. You become a brother when you honor your brother. Otherwise, you're an enemy, you're not a brother. So it's something that it's not something imposed, it's something that we of course, we are creation from God, and we're gonna all be brothers and sisters in the sense of loving one another, but we have the space to work on that. Because one of the things when you mentioned before just started came in my mind, how many times we have relationships like boyfriends, girlfriends, and then you break up. I don't want to ever see this person again. But a few months ago, you said that you love the person. That was the love of your life that you could never live without, and now you don't want to ever see that person again. I mean, what kind of relationship was that? Oh, this was my best friend, and now he's not friend at all. Never was a friend. Like, we're learning how to build relationships and to become truly brothers and sisters. I think it's important for us to remember that this is a fatality that's going to happen to all of us. Nobody's going to left behind. None of us incarnating, discarnating in this group will be ever left abandoned. There'll be a day that we're all going to hold each other's hand and walk together in this journey. She's inviting us, why not start now? Look at back. If you close our eyes and look within ourselves, there's nobody that we need to work in our relationships. There's no one human being in our family or friends or work environment or in the center that we need to deal with. We are at that level that already we love so much everyone, and we're there for them anytime they need us. I mean, it's a call.
Yeah, I understand that we all may be thinking about, our own relationships with our family, with our closest circle of friendship, and how hard it is. And in this sense, I think we have at least to occupy ourselves with one of them one day of the week. And not only we have one, but we have 7 at least, right? One for each day of the week. So, but again, let us think about here. We are not talking about here, and Joanna de Angelis is not talking about here about us solving overnight situations or saving relationships that have been damaged throughout the centuries. Okay, but she's inviting us, like, listen, you already know, you already can understand that. It's already within your reach just to give the first step. Again, it's not a matter of loving, it's a matter of understanding, of respecting, of removing the ill feelings from ourselves as much as we can. Maybe with some people it's going to be easier than with others, but then we start with the easy ones. We start exercising, and when we do that, and we feel so good because we are released of that negative emotion, of that toxic emotion, we will say to ourselves, I want to feel like this all the time. I don't want to have this kind of emotion towards anyone. But it's a gradual process. And again, we are not saying that us, by changing our way of positioning ourselves before the world, before people, before those people that hurt us or that we have a difficult relationship, that it's immediately, it's going to change everything. Or, like in a fairy tale. No, we are just talking about ourselves at this point, of us not letting this ill feel corrode us inside and becoming something that prevents us to fly high, to feel better. I cannot even, I have difficulty in controlling myself. How can I control the emotions of others? So we should not be expecting that from others. And you see how I think that the notion of this brotherhood, of being all brothers and sisters, means if there is someone in the world that is easier for us to forgive or trying to make an effort to go along, it's a family member. Now, Joanna de Angelis is saying, all of you are family members. So whatever is the effort that we are doing to be able to relate to a sister, to a mother, to a father, to a spouse, to a very close friend, because you have these connections, being by blood or being, by being very, close relationships. This is what you have to do in relation to everyone else. And nobody's saying it's going to be easy. So, but again, like we were saying before, first of all, we have to understand all this. And once we understand all this, then there is a chance that soon enough, hopefully, we will start doing something about it. We will start looking at the good things, because everyone has a good side. We all have horrible sides, because we are, remember, third order, right? So we all have horrible sides, but instead of just looking at the person and say, oh, that person is so proud of himself or herself, or, it's so arrogant. Okay, but, is this person only proud, only arrogant, only full of themselves, or do they have something good? Why can't I see this something good? Why can't I, look at this other side that can help me to actually create a better relationship? So let's read this last paragraph here is a big one. So, the one that hurts and or punishes you are also your brethren. A person that triumphs and falls is also your brother in arms. They are lessons that invite you to advance and serve. Love always and without reflecting about situations in the multiple areas of human interests, offering to all fraternal affection in relation to your neighbor. Notwithstanding the evolutionary levels that separated the disciples, Jesus did not love Judas or Peter less for their moment of mistake during the ministry. The woman caught by surprise in adultery, Zacchaeus on the top of the tree, an hesitant Pilate, or an arrogant Herodotus were loved as brethren. Jesus loved them until today and waits patiently for his brothers in arms without complaints and reprimands, even knowing they were in different processes of evolution. He waits for them in the condition of older brother. So this is when Joanna de Angelis comes in, put the cherry on the top of the ice cream, where she says, you know what? It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what the person did. This person is also your brother and your sister. And if Jesus is your guide and model, and if you really are trying to follow the teachings of Jesus, the examples of Jesus, look at the examples that he gave us by those that she presents it here. Whether they are in a better position now or still are struggling in this evolutionary stages of immortal life, Jesus is still waiting for them as Jesus is still waiting for us. Any comment at this point?
I find interesting what Sonia said, because I actually feel the opposite as she does in regards to, for me, it's much easier to deal with people closer to me when they're the problems and overcome and deal with that, because they're much closer. It's personified, it's humanized, and I know their shortcomings and I can see, and I said, yeah, I know that this person did this, but look at that. It's just, I can see your suffering and everything that you go through, and you're just like me, and it's easy. When it's a group or people that are far from me, they're faceless, and I have to put in an effort to humanize that group that is far from me. It's not a human being that has a pace and people that they like and a mom or dad or someone, and then I have to, in order to overcome that feeling that you have as this person is just horrible. It's not. But because it's so far away from me, I have to make much more effort than when someone here, because I can see that humanity, I can see that it's just like me, that we are all a mess sometimes. Yeah, he's a mess, but I'm a mess, we're all a mess. It's closer. It's been like that. We're a mess together, I guess. It's easy. It has been easier, I guess.
And there is one point, Barbara, we always talk about it, is spiritism, all the studies that we do in terms of spiritism or spirituality. Their main aim is actually to help us in our day-to-day lives. And on our day-to-day lives, we are talking about, having to deal with our lives, with our relationships, with, you know, our family members, our closest friends, you know. I think that's the reason why this lesson of Joanna de Angelis is always so important. Because again, if we are not capable of loving the world, of understanding the world, and people that we do not even know how to communicate, because they are so different from us in so many senses sometimes, you know, it's also a call to say, you know, learn first to love your neighbor. And your neighbor is not the one that is next door. It's the one that is, you know, it's actually sharing this incarnation with you. There is important in every aspect of the incarnation that you have. And so if at least we could start exercising this fraternal relationship, this brotherhood with people that we are having relationships for one reason or another. We have here our family that is, you know, the blood family. We have the family that comes from our partners. We have the spiritual family, like we have a spiritual community that is also our family. From the point we start, you know, sharing our lives with each other so much, and sharing these wonderful experiences with each other, we are related as well. Of course, we are related by God, but what I mean, it's part of who we are and how we have been building ourselves. And then we have, you know, relationships from work or from other areas that we may be acting. So if we could, at least from the small, because it is in the small that we are going to find all the human traits that we will have to learn to deal with. There is going to be that one that is so stubborn. How many millions or billion of people in the world there are stubborn? So if I learn to deal with a brother that is stubborn, then, you know, a brother, you know, a blood brother that is stubborn, when it comes to find somebody else in the world that has the same thing, I said, oh no, I already know the formula on how to deal with people like that, and not how to aggravate things. So we learn from the small to the big, and it goes expanding. But like she says here in this last paragraph, even when things are hard, it means that we are perfecting ourselves. Just this morning, I was reading this Fonte Viva, and actually I came about in, the one in English is over there, a lesson 11 that is talking about glorifying God. And this glorifying God, it means when the vase came from the very hot fire that gave it, you know, the beauty, solidified the ceramic due to the fire, making it beautiful. It has to say thanks to God, because it was through the fire that it becomes itself. It reaches its purpose. So it keeps on giving the example, like for instance, the wood that had to go through the slicing and becoming that beautiful piece of furniture that everyone is going to admire. And then the furniture will say, if I hadn't gone through this, you know, the being hit by the, you know, this knives, this wood, you know, that sliced me and make me what I am today, I wouldn't be reached this state of perfection. So, and it goes on. So it's lesson 11 from the book Living Spring. So when you think about it, this is what she's saying. Even when we are going through those struggles, it means that we are learning something. Last week we were talking about, if you wanted to learn how to be patient, you will have to be tested. You have to be in a relationship with someone that will really test your patience until the point that you say, you know what, I already know how to deal with that. I learned how to deal with that. So in this way, I think this is a very important lesson for us to meditate. Again, it can be something that we can be doing throughout our week, to start thinking and paying attention to our thoughts. Every time we hear something or watch TV, watch the news, and we think about judging, let us remember, it's my brother, it's my sister. And somehow, even if the person is doing something that is not good, we have to remember that they are very much like ourselves in the third stage of, evolvement, very inferior yet, and they are perhaps trying to do their best according to their understanding. With time, like with ourselves, our understanding is going to broaden, and we are going to see things from a different perspective and change. But so far, we do what we can do, and what depends on us. We cannot change the other. Okay. Any last comment, or what are you talking about is the result of having free will, which is responsible for our actions? Exactly, Orlando. We have free will, and we will decide whether we want to accept it or not, whether this is good for us or not. Truth be told, here we are on 21st century, having lived many, many lives, having really messed up many, many lives, including this one. And but we are saying, you know what, I think it's time for something to change. I've been trying this formula for so long, and it's only giving me hardships. There must be a different way. I want to learn this different way. And I think this is what we are trying to do in this incarnation. We are trying to learn a different way. And it's going to take time for us to be able to really practice what we are learning now. For some of us, maybe less time than for others. But again, if we keep on supporting one another, we're definitely going to get there faster. But that's it. Let's use our free will wisely. Anything else, or Adilson would like to say something else?
Just one thing about the last paragraph that Joanna de Angelis brought. It came in my mind when she's telling us that Jesus loves everyone. Doesn't matter what Peter, Judas, and I think into our lives today, whatever we have done, whatever we're still doing, it doesn't have anything to do how much they love us. Thinking about this perspective, it kind of like every time, sometimes I'm judging someone and I'm putting myself in a pedestal. Like almost I'm special. Oh, but I'm like, I'm more loved by Jesus, not by my spiritual guide. And then, no. Don't try to measure Jesus in our standard. Try to understand their standard. Because when you do that, you stop judging. When you realize that doesn't matter what someone has done to humanity, they are immensely loved by God and by Christ. And there is no privilege in the kingdom of that God. So I think when you think we go through this perspective, we take so much weight from our back. because yeah, what can I do? Sometimes I want to take the neck of that person. They need to go through this. No, they don't need to go through. Who am I to know what they need to go through? It only God and them knows, and the love of Christ is still the same. If you go in this perspective, Jussara, I think we take away a little bit the heaviness of our shoulders, because sometimes you want to change the world, or you believe that our sense of justice is the justice of God, and it's not. We are in the beginning of human evolution. How can I understand divine justice or divine love? Yeah,
That's right. Okay, anyone else, or should we go to our prayer, I guess? Okay. Alec, can you do the final prayer for us, please?
Dear brothers and sisters, let us now unite our hearts and be thankful for this beautiful lesson that was sent to us. Let us understand that all the brothers and sisters in earth are part of ourselves. Therefore, we need to be patient and love no matter what. We are here once again, being protected and guided by our guardian angel, so we can learn the lessons that we need to go on with our path. May I ask for those brothers and sisters that unfortunately couldn't join us today, but being part of ourselves, they may feel at this moment the divine love touch their hearts, and whatever they're going through, they will feel the strength and courage to keep moving forward. We thank the spiritual realm for guiding us and protecting us. We also ask that we can return next week so we can continue with this beautiful work that has been done every single week. And with that in mind, with our hearts full of love and gratitude, we ask permission to end this meeting today. So be it.
Thank you. So next